So we all know the history behind Netflix taking out Blockbuster, right? And so I just wanted to talk about, you know, I guess it's maybe a slight fear of mine losing my wife to another man. That that could be real, especially if I'm not willing to work on myself to be the best version of myself. Um, what I guess I want to ask, what are your thoughts on that? But I also want to say it doesn't seem necessarily real to me because I put so much work in, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know, man. I want. I'm trying to put myself in that space,
Hmm.
and I'm struggling with the thought because that's terrifying to me.
Yeah. Uh, I think I didn't go quite to that leap. I thought more like the marriage that I want, and losing that because I'm not progressing
Yeah.
or
So,
we're not
but what
progressing.
does that mean to you? Like losing
That
that
means
marriage?
that means the connection aspect,
Mhm.
the all the levels of intimacy, um, the respect level, the wanting to be with my partner, the um, looking at my spouse and being attracted to them, um, not letting circumstances make us become roommates, right? Or
Yeah.
just partners of partners to shuffle the kids' places, right? Like it's more about us. Like I want a marriage, not just a partner unit that has come together to accomplish things.
Yeah, I feel
Um,
that. And that, I guess in my mind, those types of scenarios end marriages, right? So for me,
yeah,
it's not like
that makes sense.
I'm literally losing my wife to another man, but like eventually, if our marriage were to end, I would fully expect her to find somebody else, right? So that's
Yeah.
kind of where my mind was working. Um, but yeah, I feel that like I think my marriage is in a really good place right now, and had I not made the decision to work on myself, like that would not be the case.
Absolutely. Same.
um, so yeah, let's talk about some of those aspects, of a healthy marriage that, as a man, we should be open to working on.
Well, first, the first thing is to know when it's good, you still have to look to see how it can be better, right? Because
Mm.
Blockbuster was crushing it. All the,
Yeah.
monopoly on that. Putting, acquiring smaller, family owned places, having all the things, video games, anything you wanted, they had, right? Diverse content, all that. Um, and it was rocking. It was great. They made all the money, you know. So they were sitting at a good space, and they thought that's how it would be forever. Not realizing that times change, people change, their wants and needs change. The customer, for lack of a better word, their wants and change. They were looking for something new. They were they didn't even know they were looking for what they got that Netflix
Mm.
provided. But once they got it, was like, oh, this is it. So being open to new ideas and new things and not just shutting it out just because it's different or just because it would force you to change. I think those are kind of some of the aspects of your marriage or the outlook on your marriage that you should have, that it's ever evolving. Even if it's really good, you can still improve because we never arrive at the perfect marriage, but that's the goal that we're trying to get to.
Yeah. There was something you said that I really liked, that kind of made me take a broader look at my perspective. Um, and it was like the customer, right? If I look at my wife as the customer of the product I'm producing, how do I get her to keep buying, right? How do I keep myself in a position where she's going to continually choose to love not me, but also the new me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because as I change, am I developing a better product or is my product falling off, right? So, like right now, and I think I talked about it on the last episode, like I'm in a season of working on my health, right? And I think in this country, I'll just take the broad statement and say, like, we sometimes just don't prioritize that part of our lives, right? I mean, I think worldwide, Americans are known to be overweight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we can go down a whole rabbit hole on why that might be. But um, back to my point, if I want to remove the friction for a customer in business of continually choosing me or my product, what can I do as a husband and a father to remove the friction of loving me, right? And like I could understand how that might seem confusing to some folks, but I guess where my mind is going on that is like if I'm going to continually choose to make a part of my wife's life more difficult, right? Like she's just, let's go back to something real simple. She's asked me to do the dishes and I just refuse to do them, right? And now we're talking like a year down the road, I'm still refusing to do the dishes. It is going to be significantly harder to choose to love your husband in moments where you know he is just blatantly not wanting to chip in, right?
Right.
So maybe that's a part of myself that I need to improve. If you go to your health, right? You have a wife that is consistently telling her husband like, you need to go to the doctor for regular checkups. Like, I'm concerned about your health. You might be feeling okay now, but we go to checkups because they might uncover something that you might not have been thinking about or hadn't really presented. Maybe your blood pressure has increased a little bit, and it's something we might need to pay attention to. Why wouldn't you go to the doctor? And then you just keep showing up as that man who refuses to go to the doctor, and you know it's a concern of hers, so you're ignoring her concerns, ignoring how she's trying to take care of you and the family. Uh, yeah, so I'm going to stop there, I guess, to get your feedback.
I like that you honed in on it's a choice because every day we choose to stay married to our spouse. Every day it's a choice. We wake
Mhm.
up, we're like, yep, I'm going to do the things that keep me married. Because the day that you choose not to is the day you potentially no longer be married, right? So the love, the respect, the affection, the care, the considering, all that you choose to do each day. So you want to make it an easy choice, right? You want to make it a choice that it's not, it feels like it's not a choice. It's just this is what we do because there's no, like you said, friction or there's no blatant rub the wrong way. Now, obviously, we're human and we'll do things that's like, man, do I want this clown? Like, he's being dumb, but for the most part, we're trying to set up systems and ideals to keep us moving in the direction of, yeah, I'm going to choose him even if he's being a jerk. I know that's not the standard. This is what we're working towards, so we're going to stay married every time. So I think that's very important to say that it is a choice, and there are options. Even though some people are not on that, but if you think legitimately, not just, oh, this is my personal stance, but like in the legitimate world of someone not in your marriage, you can say there are options to stay married or get divorced. That's that's period. Or you
Hmm.
can have a good marriage or have a trash marriage, right? All those are choices based on the behaviors and the actions that we do. So we have to choose to make those choices easier on each other within our marriage.
Yeah. You got me thinking. There was not too long ago, my wife and I had a conversation, and she said these words to me. I knew you would get here, right? She's like, I kept hanging on because I knew you were going to get here. I believed in you. And go ahead.
What? That's amazing for you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very awesome in a awesome way that she has faith in her, but also like that sucks that she was waiting.
Right. Thank you. Because that's where I was
That
going to.
sucks that she was waiting.
So it was humbling, like to hear that, like, okay, so she sees the work that I've been putting in. And it goes back to what we've been saying. Like they feel all of it, the entire process. They feel when you are not being who you set out to be. They feel when you are working through figuring out how to improve. They feel when you do figure out how to improve, but have setbacks and then, take two steps forward, one back. And then hopefully you get to the promised land, but they feel when you do become the man that you set out to be and the man that you claim to be. And then to your point, they're also going to feel that you are continually working to improve, even though she has basically said to me, like, this is where I wanted you to be. So yeah, I mean, that it felt great, but it was also very humbling. Like, oh, what did I put her through?
Hmm.
Right. And without that reflection, or even without that conversation, I could very easily see why marriages end.
Yeah, the faith of your spouse to know that you can get there and the patience to get there. Um, if we're talking about like, Netflix, like they didn't just pop up out of nowhere, right? They
Right.
slowly were like, hey, let's, Blockbuster's got a corner on this market of coming in, so let's see if we can send DVDs to people, see how that'll work, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, yeah, yeah, we'll do that. And Blockbuster, I knew they saw it happen, but they were probably like, no, we got this unlocked, so no
Yeah.
worries.
So to your point, I heard this story about the creators of Netflix going to Blockbuster locations and sitting and observing for hours what was working in their business and how they could change the market and make different offerings to remove the friction, right? And if you take that to relationships, like, don't fool yourself and think there ain't somebody sitting there waiting. You're not the only one who wants what you have. I'm just saying, just to put that on the table.
That's tough, and it's real.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's things we don't talk about and things I don't even want to think about. Yeah, I know my wife is great, and I know
Facts.
if I died tomorrow and she chose to pick
She's still
someone,
valuable.
she would have people that would be like, yeah, you're great. So that resonates and it's real. Um,
Hmm.
so knowing those things, know that you have to give her back the greatness that you see from her, right? I see that
You're right.
she's great. I want to match her greatness, right?
Hmm.
Um, and vice versa. And that's a way that you can push each other. But it's also, you know, like we always talk about growth mindset. Like, where can we grow? Where can we get better? how can we have conversations with our spouse to check in and see if we're crushing it like we think we are, or or do we need improvement? And even
Yeah.
if we're crushing it in one area, you can still be crushing it in one area and not doing so well in the other. Both things can be the same. Um, Marriage, nothing is really linear like that. So
Right.
it's just, you just got to make your space go. So I think that's very important, um, to be able to pivot, take assessment, right?
Hmm.
See what's going well, see what's not going well, see what a pain point may be in your marriage for her. Have that conversation. Like, in our marriage, what's going on? What would you like to see in our marriage? Where's something that could be better? And then even like, use your marriage, but also say me, like, what would be better? What would you like to see an improvement in me? And be open, be aware that it may be something that you might not want to hear.
Yeah. And also getting another perspective. We've brought up before doing therapy check-ins,
Hmm.
right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a long-term thing, but just as we said, we take our car to the shop for a tune-up. Having that perspective will sometimes expose you to areas you may not be paying attention to that are important, right? And in the day-to-day life of being, employees or business owners, mothers and fathers, it is difficult to catch all the things. And a lot of times you hear stories of couples that lose connection with each other because they're so busy trying to keep up with all the other things, right? So having that agreed upon check-in with the therapist can, and especially when you tell them, hey, this is our intent, we feel like we're in a good place, we just want to get a tune up,
Hmm.
right? Then they know how to approach the situation and ask you the right questions to put you in the right place, right? Not to only just share what you need to share, but give them the information that they need, from their perspective and experience of what a healthy marriage is, to just make sure that you're still connected in the ways that you want to be connected.
Yeah.
I guess what I would ask you is, in your counseling, um, what what are the couple top benefits of really just speaking to a therapist, I guess. Well, no, that's the wrong way to ask that question. In your experience of speaking with a therapist, what is, some of the best benefits you've gotten out of it? And then if you're talking about speaking with a marriage counselor, um, what are some of those benefits, and maybe how do they overlap?
I think speaking with a therapist allows you to speak without having to consider, um, how it will be received. I think for
Okay.
me, that's might be my number one thing. Like, I can just say it. I know that my therapist will be listening and then give me back, kind of like, and I can ask him, like, is that healthy? Is that not healthy? Like, my thought process. Um, you know, should I have thought about it differently? Like, are there better ways to like work through this? Um, and that kind of sets up some of the conversations I would have with my wife, because it allows me to think about it in a different way. Because you can process what the conversation you're going to have with yourself, but you're only limited to your own opinion. So it's like you said, getting a third party in there, a different opinion. That helps for me. And I think it helps you gather your thoughts once you say something out loud. Even if you talk out loud to yourself, that's beneficial. Like, if you have that conversation, because then you can hear it and be like, oh, that's not how I want to sound. But
Hmm.
when you talk with your therapist, they can help you mold your thoughts as well. Um, and it allows you just get out of your brain, somewhere, and so you can see it. Um, and I think those are those are two things that kind of happen. And when speaking on with marriages, a lot of times it gives, husbands and wives a safe space to talk to someone else, even though it's about their spouse, and
Hmm.
that keeps it from being attacking or the possibility of it feeling like an attack. Because it seems when people talk to a coach or a therapist, they will be more, um, they will actually be more thoughtful of what they're saying and not
Hmm.
kind of lean into straight emotions all the time. Not to say that that happens 100% of the time, but it's more they're thoughtful on how they're trying to say it, so that it makes sense to all the parties. And sometimes in our marriage, we don't think outside of ourselves when we bring conversations. But when you're talking with a therapist or a counselor, they will help bring that holistic view into it. So I think those are the things. How about you? How do you feel that way?
So I think I leaned into it before I asked you the question, but I guess my top thing in speaking with the therapist, and we actually spoke about it um, offline, is gathering some of the language that you need to be able to communicate effectively, right? And for me, it was being able to express how I'm feeling. Um, while all of the words were in my vocabulary, I wasn't using them effectively in response to how do you feel about X, Y, or Z.
Mm-hmm.
So, going through the exercises, right? That like just how I would practice if I would, if as an athlete would, um, just going through the exercises, doing the homework, and putting into normal life practice, um, saying those words, right? It's one thing to think about them and read them, but when you start to actually use them and work that muscle, that's it becomes a different world for you. So I think that's my number one. And then as far as coaching, you know, I think the best thing there is just having the different perspective. So I'll lean back into that, right? Having the perspective of someone who's been there, done that, is just so beneficial. I mean, that's if you think about how we learn most things in life is someone who's been there, done that, right? I don't know why when it comes to our marriage, it feels kind of maybe icky or taboo to share all of our stuff. Um, but no one's going to be able to coach you and help you get to where you're going unless they know where you're at.
Facts. I think that's a good space to wrap that up. Just knowing that experience matters and being able to have someone that's been through things or been through things with a lot of different people and seen a lot of different things helps frame the perspective that it's not just you in this one time life situation that's never happened to anyone else. It might be
Right.
your first time, but it's a common thing. And to feel that you're not the only one and that, your coach, your therapist are helping you walk through this, then you know that they've seen it and they've seen the other side. They've seen it actually work all the way out to, the end, and that it's beautiful once you get through there. And that helps to know.
Hmm.
So yeah, so appreciate you taking some time to have this conversation with us. Again, if you'd like to go deeper, or if you would like to, if you have any comments, just search Marriage is Tougher on all the social media outlets, or just go right to our website, marriagestougher.com, and hit that contact form and leave us your comments. And if you'd like to be a guest, you can hit us up there. So we appreciate you. Share this if you feel like it was beneficial and you feel someone in mind as you're listening to this. We appreciate you. Um,
Yeah.
until next time.
So I just also wanted to add one thing. I
Oh,
apologize. Um, I've been thinking a lot lately about some of the people that we've lost. And I feel like this podcast is a good place to leave legacy. So as we're always looking for new guests, if you're hesitant about becoming a guest, think about how this information that you put into the world will exist as part of your legacy. So I think about that every time we come and record, right? It's words that I am showing my future family and current family who I am and what I would like to be, how I'm working on myself, and how this is a part of how I'm loving them. So, if that could be any encouragement to the men out there who would like to be a guest, please just keep that in mind. But outside of that, I'll talk to y'all next time.
see ya.